Now it's time for the interview this week. Let's get to it.
Continuous dance hits.
RTE Pulse.
Now, on the guest interview this week, we got Steve Aoki, international DJ and DIM MAK record label owner. Welcome to the show, Steve. Now, I just want to start by asking you, how did you get into this DJ business and music production? Where did it all start?
When I moved to LA in 2002, I started throwing these small DIM MAK parties because at the time, DIM MAK was 6 years old.
Yeah.
We've already put out up to 30 releases at that point. So we were throwing these little parties. And then eventually over time, over the following 2 years, I just learned how to DJ. And then, I started producing music in 2005, started with remixes, the name Weird Science, with a friend of mine. Did that for a couple of years. 2008, I started producing original music. 2 years later, now, here we are, 2010, and I'm going to be releasing my first album next year. Yeah, it's my first studio album. A few singles will be coming out this year. My latest single was the track I did called Brat with Armand Van Helden. I have two other singles coming out, one with Sidney Sampson called Wake Up Call, and one with Laidback Luke and Little John.
And what would you say is as brought you on such a meteoric rise? Because I remember maybe it was 1 or 2 years ago, you were playing in the Button Factory in Dublin, and that is basically a venue that can hold maybe 1,000 people. What do you think has contributed to you being able to, in the space of 2 years, or in that short space of time, go from playing a venue with 1,000 people to a venue with 20,000 people, like you're playing the O2?
I think the kids, they associate a kind of music, or the kind of music that I'm producing to, they're finally getting it. They're finally getting those tracks. And Dead Mouse is, one of the biggest DJs in the world. So I'm happy to be on. I think Calvin Harris is on the show too. And Calvin he's a massive artist, Ireland and the UK.
Just tell us more about your label, DIM MAK.
Yeah, well, we started DIM MAK, a label, in 96. And I moved to Los Angeles in 2002. So we started throwing these parties to promote the label 2003-ish, and that's when we promote the records that we're putting at the time. 2002 era was The Kills. 2003 we started putting out Block Party records. In 2004, 2005, British era was coming. Kaiser Chiefs was their first show at our party. We had Block Party at, their first show was at our party as well, MIA, stuff like that. So we were kind of just, I guess you would call, breaking some of these artists in Los Angeles that were brand new in America. I was at the time, I was more of a party promoter, label head. That's what I was focusing on. It was DIM MAK Records and throwing these parties, and started producing music in 2005. And in the course of 3 years, I went from remixes to original music. When I started producing original material in 2008, I had 2 years of just futzing around and figuring things out. Studio album coming out next year.
So DIM MAK was originally a punk rock label.
It's basically DIM MAK is my A&R source. There's no limitations, there's no boundaries to what kind of artists that we're going to put out. Artists like the Bloody Beetroots and Felix Cartel, Sonic C, and stuff like that. We're not just putting out one particular genre. We've always been a pretty diverse label. Etienne de Crécy from France releasing his album. Yeah, it's just across the board. It's we just signed this new group called Legends from Italy, more of a rock band. So it's just all kinds of stuff. And then we're constantly putting stuff out. We have releases every week and an album coming out every month.
And just on your collaborations, just sorry to cut across you there, but yeah, about your collaborations, compared to a lot of other artists, you seem to collaborate a lot. Why is collaborating so appealing to you?
It's interesting. It's fun. It kind of takes you out of your own frame of context. It takes you out, diversify your own production. Some of these people are good friends of mine, or old friends, that me and Afrojack will produce. We did 4 or 5 tracks in our first session in LA. We're releasing something next year called No Beef out of the sessions that I'm excited about.
What's it like making a track called Warp, or a track in that range of Warp, and it just exploding? What's it like playing it out live?
Playing it out live, it's amazing seeing the reaction from the audience. To me, it's an underground track. It's not on the radio. There's no real vocals to it. At the end of the day, it's just sounds. It's amazing to see a crowd responding to that track, and it is at this point almost 2 years old. It's going to be 2 years old in 6 months.
Just tell us about your album coming up. Tell us about how your creative process and your thought process of that. What is your album basically?
The album is, I don't know exactly how many tracks are going to make it on the album, but out of the 13 tracks that I intend to put on the album, 10 of them are my own production, or 11 of them are my own production, and 2 of them are the collaborations, one with Layback Luke for Turbulence, and one with Afrojack, No Beef. And the other 11 tracks I've been producing throughout the years, they're all vocal driven. So I have, and it's a broad range. You know, I have hip hop artists, I have rock artists, I have pop artists. I guess to name some is like Kid Cudi's on a couple tracks. Kid Cudi's on 2 tracks. Will.i.am is on a couple tracks. Travis Barker plays drums on 2 tracks. Rivers Cuomo from Weezer is on a track. Love Fox from CSS is on a track. Sky Ferreira, female singers on a track. Red Food from LMFAO is on a track. Little John's on 2 tracks. For the most part, it's like it's finished.
That sounds deadly. Can't wait to hear the album. Looking forward to seeing you in December, playing at the O2 with Calvin Harris and Deadmau5. Could you do us a bit of a shout out there?
Hey, what's up? This is Steve Aoki. You are now listening to Whiplash with SMACKEN on RTE Pulse.
Dance floor pleasures.
RTE Pulse.